The big screen in the room still showed all the mistakes and problems I had found. I stood there, pointing at the glowing numbers and graphs, feeling my heart race. All the bosses were standing together, looking at me like I had done something wrong. There were 12 of them. Their faces were a mix of anger and frowns, and their eyes looked sharp, like they could cut through me. They all pushed back their chairs at the same time, making a loud scraping sound, as if they had practiced it before. I tried to explain the serious mistakes I had found in our machines, but my voice stopped. I couldn't get the words out. "We're done listening to her complaints," said Orson, the boss who was in charge of everything. He was the chief operating officer, which meant he ran the company. His voice sounded confident, almost like nobody could stop him from doing whatever he wanted. He made the meeting feel useless. The rustle of their expensive suits filled the room as they picked up their tablets, folders, and notebooks. Nobody looked at me. Nobody spoke. They acted like I didn't even exist. It wasn't just ignoring me. It was a special kind of ignoring that was meant to hurt me. They wanted me to feel small, embarrassed, and powerless. I tried to keep my voice steady. "The numbers speak for themselves," I said. "Our customers are perfectly satisfied with our products." Seraphine, the vice president of operations, interrupted me. Her smile never changed, even though her words felt like a knife. "Maybe you should think about whether you are ready for this level of responsibility." They all walked toward the exit together. The sound of their fancy Italian leather shoes on the floor echoed in the room. I was still standing there, my hands raised toward the screen that showed the mistakes they didn't want anyone to see. All 12 bosses, the entire leadership team, walked out while I remained alone, feeling humiliated. Thaddeus, the chief financial officer, the person in charge of all the money, was the last to leave. He paused at the doorway and held his hand near the light switch. "Don't bother finishing. No one will read your report," he said. Then he turned off the lights, leaving me in semi-darkness. Only the glowing screen lit up the room now, showing the proof of all their negligence. I sat there in the dim light for 30 seconds. My heartbeat slowly changed from a wild, racing panic to something steadier. My fear and panic began to turn into something colder and sharper, something that made me feel more in control. The betrayal I felt crystallized into something I could use. I knew exactly what I had to do. I had actually expected this reaction. In fact, I had almost counted on it happening. The public rejection, the walkout, the cold, dismissive looks, it was all confirmation of what I had suspected for months. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number I had saved a few weeks ago, hoping I would never have to call. But today I needed it. I pressed the call button. When the voice answered, I said 7 words that would change everything. "They did exactly what you said they would." "All of them?" asked the voice on the other end. "Every single one. And it's all recorded." There was a pause on the line. "Give me 4 hours, the voice said calmly. I ended the call and leaned back in my chair, staring at the glowing numbers and charts still displayed on the screen. The mistakes, the cover-ups, the falsified test results, all of it stared back at me. I knew I had to act carefully now. Before we continue, thank you for joining me on this journey. If you like this story, hit the like button so others can discover it too. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. You won't want to miss how this unfolds. My name is Sable. Until 3 months ago, I was the Director of Quality Assurance at one of the country's biggest industrial equipment companies. Our products were everywhere, hospitals, schools, and government facilities all over the country. These were machines people trusted with their lives. Nobody expected them to fail, and most people never even thought about the risks. I wasn't always someone who made powerful enemies. I grew up in a small industrial town. I learned early that systems sometimes had flaws, but honesty and doing the right thing mattered more than staying quiet. My father worked for 30 years at the local factory. Every evening, he came home and told stories about corners being cut, warnings being ignored, and how people sometimes risked safety for money. When that factory closed after an accident that could have been prevented, I promised myself I would never stay silent if people's lives were at risk. I wanted to be the person who fixed problems, not someone who ignored them. I built my reputation in the industry by fixing broken systems without hurting the companies I worked for. People knew me as someone who solved problems. That's why the company hired me. "We need someone with your integrity," Orson said during my final interview. His smile was warm and convincing. "Minor inefficiencies have crept into our processes. We just need fresh eyes." My predecessor, Caius, had left suddenly. They said it was because of health problems. But something felt off. His team was strangely reluctant to talk about him. When I asked for his files and documentation, I received vague answers about his unique system that hadn't been properly passed on. The first warning sign came during my tour of the factory. Vesper, a quality technician who had worked at the company for 8 years, showed me around with perfect precision. She answered every question with practiced confidence until we reached the testing lab. When I asked about the validation protocols, she glanced at a small camera in the corner before replying. "We follow established company procedures," she said, her voice tight. Later that week, I discovered test results that didn't match what the machines actually did. Machines that failed critical safety checks were still being shipped with official approval signatures. When I shared this with my team, they stared at their hands, silent and afraid. "Just follow established protocols," Orson instructed me when I requested a private meeting. Previous leadership complicated things unnecessarily. The next day, a large bonus appeared in my company account. It was far more than what I was supposed to receive. No explanation was provided. I declined the bonus and continued my investigation. Slowly, the pattern became clear. Our most important medical equipment line had serious safety flaws that were being deliberately hidden. Testing protocols were changed to hide defects. Customer complaints were buried or redirected. "The issue isn't the product," Seraphine explained when I first presented my findings privately. "It's with user expectations. Every industry has acceptable margins of error. Not when those errors could hurt people," I replied firmly. She slid a folder across her desk. Inside was a revised employment contract with a higher salary and a strange, secret confidentiality clause. "Everyone benefits from regulatory flexibility," she said, tapping the signature line. "We reward team players generously." I took the contract and told her I would consider it, but I kept gathering evidence. That night, I received an anonymous email containing previous safety reports, ones that had been altered in the official records. The sender's message was simple: Caius wasn't sick. The morning of my presentation to the executive team, I found Vesper waiting by my car in the parking garage. "They're setting you up," she whispered, constantly looking over her shoulder. "They've told everyone your report is just attention-seeking exaggeration. Orson already has your termination papers ready." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because Caius tried to do the right thing too," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "He didn't deserve what happened to him." She walked away before I could ask more. But the haunted look in her eyes, the same haunted look I had seen in my whole team, solidified my decision. I made one important change to my presentation before the meeting. I removed the slide with the most damning evidence, saving it for another purpose. I needed to act carefully. After the executives left the meeting room, I sat alone in semi-darkness. The call I made earlier wasn't to a journalist or a lawyer. It was to Mireille, the lead investigator at the regulatory agency overseeing our industry. She had been quietly building a case for months. "I sent you everything from today," I told Mireille. The walkout happened almost exactly as we predicted. They made those comments about the Cincinnati incident on record. Her voice was calm and professional. Thaddeus specifically mentioned handling it like Cincinnati when discussing the suppressed incident reports. "Perfect. That connects the dots we needed. Stay where you are for now. Act normal if anyone returns." I gathered my materials slowly and carefully. The humiliation that should have crushed me had instead hardened into something strong. For 3 months, I had been building a case while they thought they were breaking me down. The first time I contacted Mireille wasn't planned. I had found her name buried in Caius's encrypted files. Caius hadn't left because of health problems. He had been documenting the same issues I had discovered. His final report had disappeared the day he left. When I reached out to Mireille, she was cautious. Caius had stopped responding to inquiries 3 months ago. The company claimed he was unavailable due to medical leave. "He's not sick," I told her. At least, not according to his wife, who I tracked down yesterday. She said he had taken a large settlement with a gag order after being threatened with fraud charges. Our collaboration began that night. We knew a frontal attack wouldn't work. The executives had covered their tracks too well, with armies of lawyers ready to bury any accusations. We needed them to incriminate themselves, preferably on record. After leaving the meeting room, I walked through the empty halls to my office. The silence felt heavy, expectant. I checked my watch. 2 hours until Mireille's team would act. My office door was slightly open. Inside, Seraphine was sitting in my chair. "That was quite a spectacle," she said, turning my computer monitor toward her. Not surprising given your approach. I set my materials down carefully. Was there something else you wanted to say that you couldn't share with the group? I asked. She smiled without showing her teeth. Sable, I actually argued for hiring you. Your reputation for fixing problems impressed me, but you misunderstood your assignment from the beginning. Your job was to fix the perception problem, not to create a new one. She stood and smoothed her skirt. Your position has been terminated. Effective immediately. Security will collect you in 20 minutes. Whatever materials you've gathered, stay here, including your personal notes. Her eyes got a little narrow. She looked serious, like she was ready to strike at any second. Everything in this company belongs to us, she said. All the work you do, all the ideas you have, they belong to the company. I nodded quietly. I wanted to seem calm and careful. Something about the way I stayed calm made her suspicious. This isn't a choice, she said, her voice sharp. You've made enemies. People who don't forget. People who wait for the right time. Is that a threat? I asked softly. No, she said. It's just reality. Your career ended the moment you went against this team. She started walking toward the door, her heels clicking on the shiny floor. I respect your principles, she said over her shoulder, even if they are wrong and misguided. Principles don't matter much when 12 executives all agree on something, I said. She paused at the doorway. Exactly. Nobody will believe you if you speak against all of us, she said. Then she left. I waited a few seconds, letting her leave before I went to my desk. I opened the drawer carefully and reached inside. Hidden there was a small device that had been secretly recording everything in my office for the past 10 weeks. I had forgotten it for a moment, but now I slipped it into my pocket. Just as I did, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mireille. We're ahead of schedule. 4 agents are coming now. Meet in the lobby in 10 minutes. I began to gather my personal things, packing just enough to make it look like I was following the rules. I didn't want anyone to get suspicious. As I walked through the office, I could see the expressions on my team's faces. Some looked sad, like they felt sorry for me. Others looked afraid, like they knew something bad was about to happen. Vesper caught up with me near the elevator. They're saying you blamed production for design mistakes, she whispered. Orson is already announcing your replacement. Are they now? I said, pressing the down button for the elevator. Interesting timing. What are you going to do? Vesper asked, her voice shaking slightly. Sometimes, I said as the elevator arrived with a soft chime, you have to let people think they've won before they realize they've lost. The lobby was full of people. Afternoon sunlight bounced off the shiny marble floors. The glass doors swung open, and 4 people in dark suits walked in, led by Mireille. She held her badge in front of her. Regulatory Enforcement Division, she said loudly. We have a warrant to access company records and conduct interviews. The security guard looked terrified. He fumbled for his phone, as if he wanted to call for help. Within minutes, the lobby was full of controlled chaos. Employees stopped in their tracks, staring. Some pulled out their phones to record what was happening. Someone from the legal department ran down the stairs, demanding to see paperwork. I stayed near the reception desk, watching calmly. Mireille handed over the documents carefully, explaining the situation with confidence. Her team began moving toward the elevators, followed by unsettled legal representatives. Orson appeared red-faced and angry. His expression changed when he saw me. He walked over, standing in a way that blocked my view of the action. I hope you understand what you've done, he said quietly. This little tantrum of yours will destroy more than your career. That sounds worrying, I said. Maybe you should share those thoughts with the agents upstairs. His face tightened. You signed confidentiality agreements. Anything you've shared is outside the rules. I finished for him. No. Everything I shared went through the proper channels. I didn't leak anything to the press or competitors. I followed the rules, unlike the people I reported on. Color drained from his face. He realized I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't leaked secrets. I had only followed the rules they had been breaking for years. You don't know what forces you're messing with, Orson said slowly. This company has survived worse than one unhappy employee. I smiled calmly. I'm not unhappy, Orson. I'm just doing the job you hired me to do. I'm making sure things are done properly. That's all. Something in my face made him step back slightly. Security will escort you out now, he said. Actually, said a voice behind him, Miss Sable will be staying to assist with the investigation. Mireille stood there, her badge shining in the morning light. We have questions about the presentation that was interrupted yesterday, she said firmly. The next 4 hours were like a carefully rehearsed dance. Agents moved through the building, taking computers, documents, and servers. Executives were separated for interviews. Employees watched, wide-eyed, as years of lies and secrets began to unravel in real time. I sat in a conference room, not the same one as before. I answered questions and explained what I had seen while Mireille's team built their case. Through the glass walls, I could see people beginning to understand what was happening. Whiteboards were filled with timelines, diagrams, and connections. By 4:30, Thaddeus, our CFO, was escorted from his office, looking pale and silent. By 5:15, 8 more executives followed, not in handcuffs but clearly no longer in control. As they passed my room, Orson's eyes locked on mine. He finally understood that the woman he had dismissed as weak and incompetent had quietly dismantled their entire operation. It was almost worth all the stress, anxiety, and gaslighting from the past 3 months. But this was only the beginning. What they didn't know yet was that tomorrow morning, their carefully constructed world would completely collapse in ways they could never imagine. The evidence we secured today was just one small piece of a much larger plan, one that had been forming long before I even arrived at the company. The full scale of what was coming wouldn't be clear until the emergency board meeting scheduled for 8 a.m. By then it would be too late for lawyers, too late for damage control, and too late for anything except watching their perfect world burn. And I would be there to witness it all. The next morning came with a strange brightness, like the world had shifted overnight. I dressed carefully in a charcoal gray suit, keeping jewelry minimal and pulling my hair back tightly. Today wasn't about impressing anyone. Today was about watching accountability unfold. Sleep had evaded me, but adrenaline kept my mind sharp. 3 months of careful documentation, strategic alliances, and patience were about to pay off in a big way. The company headquarters looked different in the early morning light, vulnerable, somehow exposed. Security had been increased, with new guards checking IDs at every entrance. News vans were lined up outside behind temporary barriers. A woman I didn't know, Miss Ira, greeted me at the executive entrance. "I'm Ira," she said politely. "I assist the board chair. You're expected upstairs." The executive floor was eerily quiet. Glass offices that usually bustled with activity were empty. Computer screens showed login pages, waiting for users who would never return. Ira led me to a small room next to the main boardroom. Through a partially open door, I could see people gathering. Somber faces, whispers filled with urgency, and glasses of water that no one touched. "Wait here," Ira instructed. "The chair will call you in when they're ready." Alone, I checked my phone. A message from Mireille appeared. Phase 2 is starting. 9 search warrants are being executed simultaneously. I smiled. Perfect timing. From the boardroom, voices grew louder. Some demanded answers. Others asked for lawyers. One voice, firm and commanding, cut through the chaos. "This meeting will come to order." The door swung open. Lucian, the board chair, a silver-haired man with sharp, calculating eyes, nodded at me. "Please join us, Miss Sable," he said. The boardroom contained 23 people. The full 12-person board, senior executives who hadn't attended my presentation, and a group of serious attorneys. 3 empty chairs at the table stood out. "For those who haven't met her," Lucian said, "this is Sable, our quality assurance director, or rather, our former director. According to termination papers filed yesterday afternoon, which she never approved." Murmurs spread across the room. Lucian continued. "Sable has agreed to present her findings directly to the board before speaking with federal investigators." Later, Orson, sitting far away, tried to interrupt. "This is highly unusual. Our attorneys should review any materials first." "You've forfeited that privilege," Lucian said sharply, cutting him off. "The people in charge have already taken most of the company's papers. We are trying to figure out what is going on before the company loses half its value." He looked at me and nodded. "Your turn to explain." I connected my tablet to the big screen at the front of the room. The lights went down, and the slides I had started showing yesterday lit up. I could see the faces of the board members in the dim light. Some looked nervous, some curious, and some were trying very hard to look calm. I began speaking clearly, just like I had yesterday before the other leaders left. "Our safety checks and quality tests have not been done properly for about 3 years, I said. For the next 40 minutes, I carefully explained everything I had found. I showed that test results had been changed, accident reports hidden, and safety settings on machines messed with. I even had emails that proved the bosses tried to hide broken machines that had hurt patients in hospitals. As I spoke, I could see the expressions of the leaders change. At first, they looked like they didn't believe me. Then shock spread across their faces. And finally, almost all of them looked angry, but they were trying very hard not to show it. "This can't be true," said Seraphine when I paused to take a breath. I replied calmly, "These are just some examples. I haven't even shown the most worrying things yet." I switched to slides that no one had seen before. These slides had financial records showing strange payments to other countries, diagrams linking executive bonuses to fake quality scores, and emails talking about keeping whistleblowers quiet. Whistleblowers are people who tell the truth about something bad happening, and someone was trying to stop them. "Where did you get this?" asked Thaddeus in a rough, angry voice. "From your old boss, Caius," I said calmly. "Before he was forced to leave the company, he made secret copies of everything." "He left because of health problems, right?" one person asked, looking confused. "No," I said firmly. "He had a choice. Either sign a secret agreement or face made-up charges. His last act was to lock these files with a timer. If he didn't reset the timer every month, the files would automatically be sent to certain people." "That's stealing company property," one lawyer shouted. Lucian, one of the executives, raised his hand. "Let him continue," he said quietly. I explained, "When I was hired, I got an anonymous message with access to these files. At first, I thought it might be a trap, but my own investigation showed the same problems Caius had written about. Then I knew the truth." I clicked to the next slide. It was a video of my presentation from yesterday. You could see the executive team leaving the room and hear them saying mean and mocking things about me. The room went very quiet. The leaders didn't want anyone to hear this, but it was all there, clear as day. "You recorded that illegally?" Orson snapped. "No," I said calmly. "All meeting rooms here automatically record meetings for safety. I just asked for access and Lucian approved it." Lucian didn't show much on his face, but his small nod told me he had followed all the rules. That made everything I was showing completely legal. I continued. "This morning, federal agents are executing search warrants at 9 executives' homes. They are looking for messages about the Cincinnati incident last year. That's when a machine broke in an operating room, but the bosses blamed the workers, even though it wasn't their fault. Internal documents show it was the machine, not the people." Several people turned pale. You could almost see the color drain from their faces. "How do you know about Cincinnati?" Thaddeus whispered. I tilted my head slightly. "Because I was hired to find exactly these problems. You tried to stop me, but I still did my job." For the next hour, the meeting turned into chaos. Lawyers were called, press statements were written, and market experts were contacted. Analysts were told to watch the situation. Through it all, I quietly watched as their world fell apart. By noon, trading of the company's stock was stopped temporarily. By 2 p.m., 9 executives had handed in resignation letters. By 4 p.m., federal prosecutors announced charges against 7 executives, with more expected soon. The company was falling apart, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. After everyone had left, Lucian asked me to stay. "You planned this for months," he said quietly. "Yes," I confirmed. Once I understood what was happening, I had 2 choices. Join in and ignore the problems or stop it. I chose to stop it. "You could have come to me directly," he said. "Could I have?" I asked. 3 board members already knew. Their signatures are on papers that approved the messed-up safety tests. Lucian looked uncomfortable. "Not all of us knew everything," he said. "Even choosing not to know is still a choice," I replied. He nodded slowly, realizing I was right. "What happens now?" he asked. "That depends on you," I said. "The company can survive, but not with the same leaders and priorities. And me? I won't be part of it. My resignation will be on your desk tomorrow," I said. "My work here is finished." The next morning, I watched from my apartment as news showed executives being escorted from their homes. The company's stock had dropped 42%. Lawsuits were starting to be filed. Experts said the leaders would be completely replaced. What nobody knew except Caius, Mireille, and I was that this had never been about revenge for what happened to me. It was about justice, for the patients hurt by broken machines, for the employees scared to speak up, for the corruption that valued money above safety. The best revenge wasn't seeing the leaders fall in public. The true revenge was watching them reveal their real character when they walked out of the meeting, thinking they were powerful. They didn't know that act was the final proof we needed. They thought they were showing strength, but instead, they were sealing their own fate. Just as I was thinking about this, my phone rang. A voice I didn't recognize asked, "Is this Sable?" "It is," I answered. "This is Dr. Alaric at Memorial Hospital," the voice said. "We've been following the news about your old company. Our Medical Safety Board wants you to help hospitals check for broken equipment. Would you be interested?" I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just watching your enemies fall. It's using what they left behind to make something better. The mistakes they made and the chaos they caused could now help save lives and protect people. I thought about the patients who had been hurt, the employees who had been scared into silence, and the corruption that had put money above people's safety. This was bigger than any one person. I realized that even though I had watched the company fall apart, the true reward was that we could now build something better from the ruins. The morning news played again, showing more details of the investigations. Each story made me feel a little proud that justice was being done. The people who had been hiding the truth could no longer pretend nothing was wrong. The world was finally seeing the truth. I sat back in my chair and took a deep breath. The hard work was done, but the lessons were clear. Being honest and brave, even when others try to stop you, was the only way to fix something broken. And sometimes the best way to win isn't through anger or revenge, but by using the situation to help others and make the world a better place. I knew that the future would be different. The company might survive, but it would be new. And I would move on to something better, knowing that justice had been done and that I had played a part in protecting people.